else except the two of you. So thank you for being here. You got this.
Yeah.
I remember if you need me to do a dance in the back, like a TikTok thing.
We're going to get started in 1 second, folks. I'm just going to get us squared away. Thanks so much for tuning in today. And take it away, Superintendent Flanagan.
All right. Good afternoon, BSD. It's great to see you all today on this fine and lovely sunny spring day. Russ just told me to chill out a little bit. So
I think
chill
they
out
can
a
hear
little
you. I think you might be screaming.
Russ asked me to stop screaming, but it's good to see you all. Thank you for everything that you do. We have had quite the year, quite the 2 years. And it reinforces for me the importance of the work that you do every day. And really that this job, the job of being an educator, a teacher, a paraeducator, any staff that's in the school system, your jobs are more important, I think, than any other job there is. And I know it's been a slog this year. And I appreciate the strength that you've brought to that, but also the vulnerability and the willingness to reach out and to let me know if you're struggling or if there are challenges and how we can do better to support you. So thank you. We have 6 weeks left. Is that right? 6 weeks, 5.5 weeks. We're getting close. And I encourage you to finish the year spending time reflecting on the what we've been through, but also really thinking forward optimistically to the future. Spend time outside. It's okay to be outside with your students. Learning outside of the four walls is a great thing, I believe. Think about that balance of structure and also of joy. And I encourage you to spend time thinking about how you create joy in your classrooms for yourself and for your students these last 5 or 6 weeks. And if I don't get to see you again before the summer, that you really enjoy the break and the time to rest, rejuvenate, and be ready for next school year. So we have a new strategic plan, and we're excited to unveil the strategic plan. It's here. This isn't all of it. This is the one pager. But you've heard about this. I've written about it a little bit. We brought together about 70 community members, students, staff, families, partners to co-construct a strategic plan. It was a powerful experience that we did that I've never experienced before, because it wasn't the traditional strategic plan development where the leadership team or the central office develops a strategic plan and gives it to people. The coalition of 70 people over the course of 12 months really created this plan and even wrote the priorities and the goal statement. And so I feel really fortunate that we have a strategic plan that is developed by our community and really expresses our whole community's values and what they appreciate and what they hope to hold us accountable to and to support us through. That strategic plan has been around for a little while, a couple of weeks at least, maybe a month, or a couple of months, I should say. But we paused on putting together the materials so that we could come back and get some pictures of you and your students without masks, because all the pictures we had were of masks. So that'll come out next week, and we'll be distributing that around next week. We'll ask you all to take the one pager and hang it up somewhere. And one of the things that we heard from the steering committee or the coalition that developed the strategic plan is that we've had strategic plans before, but we haven't done as much as we can to implement them. So we really want to live by this strategic plan and make it something that we practice. So we're here today with Sabrina and Kali from Edmonds Middle School. to talk a little bit about restorative practices. What you'll notice is that restorative practices is one of the 5 priority areas. You can't see it from there, but it's this last priority area. And it is that relationship-based communities, building relationship-based communities through restorative practices is our 5th priority. I did a policy report to the school board last night and reinforced and reminded me that it is also a part of our school board policy. So something that we want to do, we believe is right. I see that in your feedback. And I also know we have a lot to grow and a lot to improve and to better understanding our practice and our work with restorative practices. So we're here today. Sabrina and Kali are going to give me some tough questions, some hard-hitting questions about restorative practices to kick off your afternoon. I'm ready. You ready?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm ready.
Do you want to introduce yourself? Introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Sabrina. Oh, that was gonna go Kali after.
That's fine.
My name is Kali Ali. My pronouns are she, her. I'm in 8th grade at Edmond Middle School.
Thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Sabrina Boro. My pronouns are she, her. I'm in 6th grade and I go to EM. And me and Kali, we are free mediators.
Which is a fancy title for helping people to solve conflicts. For example, me and Sabrina, we solve problems / conflicts between students, teachers, and like anyone at Edmonds.
Today, we will be talking about restorative practices. Why are restorative practices needed in Burlington School District?
Well, Sabrina, I think restorative practices are really important for our district because they are based on relationships and building strong relationships that benefit both students and adults. And I think that particularly in our society right now, there's a lot of tension, a lot of sort of very different sides, polarized beliefs about how we should be as a nation, as a world, and that it's really important that we take time to empathize, to listen, to understand, and to build relationships through doing that. And I think that without those relationships, we're not well, and that it's hard for students to learn, it's hard for adults to feel supported. And so for me, it is really the foundation of how I think we are and aspire to be and should be as a community. Make sense?
Makes sense.
All right, thank you.
What are some benefits of using restorative practices in BSE?
Well, I think number one, it builds community. When you take time to pull together and to learn about each other, that sort of the tier 1 work of building relationships, of spending time slowing down. One of the big things, one of the hallmarks of systemic racism or a white supremacy culture, which we are baked in, is that we go too fast. We make decisions too fast. We're hurrying. We're busy, everything has to happen fast. And then when we step back, I think, and look at what that does, it leaves people behind. And I think the system is designed to do that. So the big benefit for me is that if we really commit to them and do them well, it helps us slow down. It helps us address bias and racism that exists in our society. And it helps us come together as a community and as a school for each other. So yeah, I think it's really, that's a huge benefit to it. The other benefit, which I was going to mention later, maybe I'll come back to it, is empowerment. You are 2 examples of people who would be empowered probably in other ways, right? But this opportunity to be peer mediators, right, to help your fellow students, your colleagues at school and adults process things that are happening, address harm, have conversations, build relationships is empowering. And so that's a big piece of it for me. Did I answer your whole question?
Mhm.
All right, thank you.
What are some things we could do better with restorative practices in Burlington School District?
Well, we've been doing restorative practices for quite a while. I don't know the number of years. I want to say 7, maybe 8 years, 7 years. We've been working on restorative practices. And I think, last week I was in British Columbia in Canada at a school district that was committed to restorative practices and Indigenous culture. And one of their strengths is that they have a superintendent who's been there for 12 years and a team that's been together for 7 or 8 years. So what I think is really important for us in BSD is to keep working on this, to realize that we're never going to get to an end point. We're always going to need to work and work at restorative practices, grow and learn from each other in how we can be better. And so I think what we need to really focus on is being open, staying with it and being open, because restorative practices require me to be vulnerable. I've had students and I've had staff say, Tom, I didn't like this thing you did. Can we talk? And I've gone through restorative practices with staff and students based on things I've done here in Burlington. And I think it's uncomfortable at first because we feel like we're in positions of power. I feel like I am in a position of power. And a lot of times when you're people who are in positions of power don't want to give up and admit that they've done wrong or committed or created harm. And so I think it's really important for us to be able to do that and to know that it's a safe enough space that I can say I've done something wrong, and people will listen and hear that and allow us to move forward. So let's keep doing that. Let's be open. Why not? It's about relationships. It's about us growing. It's about us being vulnerable and being better together as a community.
How can teachers better support students by using RP circles?
Oh, that's a great question. I think that one of the ways that teachers can be better is by asking students about how they're experiencing the RP circles, having them help to develop RP circles, and having students lead RP circles in their classrooms and in their school communities. So one of the things that I've really been thinking about is how do we challenge, engage, and empower students, and how do we challenge, engage, and empower adults? And so I think that those two things have to happen if we're going to be a strong school district. And so I think that's one way is by empowering students through that process. The other way is, I think, for teachers to know that this process is not linear. It's not, we don't go from here to there, right? Restorative practices can be really challenging for adults because, like I said earlier, you kind of give up some of your power. And I think it's really important for us to do that, but to know that that can be messy and that there is still accountability. So a lot of times adults are worried about, well, if a student does this, they have to know that that was wrong, and they have to, like, so that it changes the behavior. And in the past, and we still do to some extent, we've used sort of separating them through suspensions or through other types of separation. And I think what we need to really kind of push through and work together on is how do we work to keep students in the community when there has been harm, and make sure that there's accountability when there's been harm. But that accountability is not through separation, but through really dealing with what happened. And I think we need to do that as adults too. And if we don't do that as adults, we can't ask students to do that.
Yeah, because sometimes that could be unfair. It could be unfair because if that happens to adults and they don't do it, why should kids do it?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, we've been using a fancy word for that called symmetry. You know what being symmetrical is?
Mhm.
Yeah, so it's the same idea that we've been talking about around how the things that we do as adults has to mirror the things that we do that we expect for students. And so I have to work on thinking about how we develop professional learning for teachers and for staff that is engaging, empowering, and challenging, right? If we want learning in the classroom to also be engaging, challenging.
Thank you for letting me and Polly have this opportunity.
Thank you.
We appreciate it.
We're grateful.
Thank you. Well, I'm grateful for you being here and for your leadership and for the amazing way that you ran these questions, and you pushed me to think about this in ways that I didn't think I was going to be pushed about restorative practices today. So thank you for your leadership and for everything that you continue to do.
Expect the unexpected.
Expect the unexpected. Perfect way to end. Thank you, Kali. Thanks, everybody. Have a great afternoon.
Bye.